Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're taking a look at a Titan build that is geared all around boss damage. The main reason why I'm making this build is because we still have the remaining week of the Guardian Games event with the brushdown activity that is literally just killing bosses over and over. But we also have the Pantheon event coming out later this summer, which is a raid activity where all you do is defeat raid bosses. So today we're going to show you a build for Titans that allows you yourself to crank out good infinite damage, get your super back in less than 20 seconds without fail, with the side effects of letting your teammates also do a ton more damage than they would normally do. And of course, as is my rule, this build will also focus on the mid game so that you can actually get to the bosses with ease. Now, if you saw my last video, then I actually covered a similar build for hunters. So if you yourself are a hunter or you have some friends that are looking for a similar build to this one that you're going to see in this video, then definitely go watch that. It's linked up there in the top right. I hope I'm pointing at the card. But other than that, when I'm speaking about content, I think you should subscribe to the channel. I do my best to put out informative Destiny 2 content, whether that's guides, weapon reviews, builds, especially just kind of talking about Destiny as the franchise. Hopefully it's not just Destiny 2 for that much longer. And my main goal is to hit 50,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I can't do that without your help. With that said though, it's not all about me. There's also a dim link down in the description alongside timestamps. That way this video is easier for you to digest. If you just want to take the build, you can. There's a link down below. And if you just want to find some specific information on the play bar, you can also just go straight there. And then the last bit before I go, I do stream fairly often on Twitch, also linked in the description, which I would love to have you come over there and say hi. But now moving on to the actual build itself, the starting point is going to be a pair of exotic boots. And these are the Peacekeepers. These act very similar to Lucky Pants if you know those for hunters, and they read, while wielding a submachine gun, handling, airborne effectiveness, and movement speed are all improved. And damage against combatants will increase the longer you remain on target. Submachine guns are reloaded when stowed. Now, there's actually a bit to look at here, but we're going to focus on damage and reloading our SMGs. Starting with the damage side of things, when we have an SMG equipped, any hit against a target will give us a stack of damage buff. Pretty aptly named if you ask me. But each stack of this buff is a 5% damage bonus and will cap at 20 stacks for plus 100% damage. This is about as simple as a damage boost can get, but also an easy doubling of our damage is incredibly potent. But that isn't where this exotic stops being useful, as we also have the reloading portion of them. When you stow an SMG, it will auto load after about a second. This means you can unload an entire magazine into an enemy, swap off for a pretty brief duration, and then swap back to the SMG with a full magazine. But you actually don't even need to do that. These exotic boots have a quirk where they don't require the SMG to be actually off your screen to reload them. By just tapping your swap weapons button twice, your SMG will disappear for a second, then return, and while it's in your hands, it's gonna reload. So for the sake of dealing damage with SMGs, which is what we're gonna be doing today, this exotic armor piece does it all. Now, the question is, what exotic weapon do we pair with our exotic armor? And when we talk about SMGs, we're actually going to skip an exotic altogether, at least for this slot. What we're going to be using today is actually from our newest release of weapons, that being the blasters, specifically the Fast Talker. This SMG has everything we could ever want to optimize this build, and looking at our desired role, the main pieces are in the 4th column and the 5th column, where the origin trait lies. In the 4th column, we want to have target lock. This is a perk that increases damage for as long as we don't stop firing against a single target. So in this build, where we just want to hold the trigger for as long as possible, this perk is quite literally perfect. But then in the 5th, we are looking for accelerated assault. And admittedly, in the role that I'm using in the footage that you're seeing and what I've used for a lot of this, I don't actually have the accelerated assault origin trait, which would be the God roll. This unique origin trait only drops on Renegade's weapons that come masterworked automatically. So if you see a gold porter, when you do get a drop, then you have a chance at the God roll. As for what this origin trait does, it will partially reload our weapon and increase our outgoing damage by a bit for simply dealing damage with the weapon. So in this build, we really like it because it extends our magazine by doing nothing and increases our damage by doing nothing. But admittedly, take target lock over just the origin trait. As for the rest of the weapon, just use stuff that increases the magazine size, or rather heat buildup. Now, taking a quick look at the performance of this weapon with Peacekeepers, by simply holding down the trigger and aiming at Carl's head, our DPS before buffing anything up is already at about 1000. And if we continue firing past that first magazine, using the trick that I showed you to reload the SMG instantly, our DPS barely drops for the next mag and the mag after that to infinity. But before we move on from this SMG, pay attention to our super bar. It is returning to us very quickly, and this isn't close to as fast as it's going to get with this build. So now moving on to that super and the rest of our subclass, we are running Prismatic for the enhanced neutral game and the ability to buff up our super damage. The super of choice is Thunder Crash, because if you know anything about the super, then you know it's just far and away like the best boss damage in the game, and this is actually where a bulk of our damage from today's build comes from. Moving on from that, we have our class ability, which is going to be Thruster, but in team settings, Rally Barricade can reduce the damage you take from bosses and the like pretty significantly, so don't miss out on that too if you find yourself being pretty squishy. For our melee option, we'll be using Frenzied Blade. This melee does a lot of damage and will also sever targets, reducing their outgoing damage. Our grenade is Glacier Grenade because it builds a ton of our Dark Transcendence meter and it does pretty good damage. But then for our aspects, we're going to be using two of the most popular ones right now. And the first one, believe it or not, is going to be Knockout. This aspect does a lot, but the main reason we like it is for the survivability it offers. It says that whenever we break a shield or get an enemy to at least critical or dead, the buff activates, increasing our melee damage and Lund range, as well as causing melee kills to heal, amplify us. In game, there's a bit to showcase about this aspect. First up, we have activation. In most cases, this is going to happen when you score a kill with anything. And then the effects of the buff are increased melee damage, which really isn't important in this build, but the main thing to showcase is the health regen on melee kill. Whether it's a charged melee or an uncharged melee, we'll be getting massive chunks of health back each time we get one. This will allow us to run around clearing ads while staying very healthy. And the amplification that this aspect gives us also is a source of 15% damage resist, making us tanky too. There's a lot to love about Knockout, and yeah, that's why like every Titan runs it. As for the second aspect, we are running Consecration. This aspect says we can activate our melee ability while sliding to perform an uppercut that launches a wave, and then we can activate our melee again while airborne to slam and produce another damaging wave. Anything hit by both will instantly ignite and cause a ton of damage and explosions. Showing this off in-game as much as I don't need to, this ability does incredible ad clear. It also does a surprisingly large amount of damage, allowing us to quickly take care of groups of ads that include things like ultras or majors or even champions. Now moving on to the final piece of our subclass build-outs, we have the Fragments, and this is where we're actually going to get a good amount of boss damage investment. To begin with the more unimportant options, we have Facet of Hope. This fragment will massively reduce our class ability cooldown whenever we have an elemental buff. In this build, we are amplified all the time, so our class ability is always on a short cooldown. Next, we have Facet of Protection. This fragment just makes us tankier by giving us DR when near 3 or more enemies, so pretty much all the time. But then for the last two fragments, these are going to help with our boss DPS. The first is Facet of Dawn. This fragment will make us radiant whenever we deal damage with a powered melee. So if we use our Frenzied Blade, our weapons get more damage, or we could even activate Radiant by using a Knockout Punch. Then lastly, we have Facet of Courage. This fragment will cause our light abilities to deal more damage to dark debuffed targets. And the easiest way to get a dark debuff on anybody is to use a Frenzied Blade. And it actually is going to help us twofold. The melee will make us radiant to improve our weapon damage, and it causes our Thunder Crash to deal 10% more damage on top of it thanks to Facet of Courage. You can start to see how this build synergizes around nuking bosses. But now coming out of our subclass, the next piece for continuing to nuke bosses is actually a weapon. That's going to be the support heavy weapon being Tractor Cannon. Technically, you don't need to use this for the build to work, but this exotic heavy shotgun will cause affected enemies to take 30% more damage from all sources. In most in-game activities like raids or dungeons, you will find some player using this weapon, and if you can use this weapon while still putting out competitive DPS by using a infinite ammo primary weapon, which is what this build is entirely about, you're going to be the most valuable player on your team. But now, to showcase how far we've come, including Tractor Cannon and our subclass setup, let's take a quick test at Carl. We first want to Tractor Carl so that everything deals 30% more damage, then we melee to buff our weapons and super, we T-Crash for a massive amount of chunk damage, and then we lay into the boss with our SMG. Whenever we hear the beep, like our SMG is about to run out of ammo, swap to tractor cannon, reapply the 30% debuff, and then swap back. This will reload our SMG and allow us to continue cranking as we build our next super. As soon as we have it, repeat the beginning process for max damage, and yeah, this setup really doesn't fall off ever. Tractor cannon is very ammo efficient, and our SMG literally has infinite total damage. But this whole combo comes out to about 2000 DPS, and no, we are not done increasing that yet. Taking a quick detour though before we continue to buff up our damage, what are some other weapon recommendations, especially for our energy slot? Well, for the energy slot, I think you should use something with a bit more range than an SMG. I find myself using Psi Eterna because rocket pulses are still very, very broken. And then for the heavy slot, let's say you're not using hand cannon, maybe you have a teammate that really likes to use it, I would recommend Finality's Augur. This is a passive damage heavy weapon that is actually going to do a lot for you when it comes to regenerating that super. But now back into increasing our outgoing damage, let's take a look at our armor. The first thing to look at is our stats. Our most desired stat is the weapon stat. As above 100, it will increase our outgoing damage against bosses. As for the second stat, we want super. Up to 100, this will increase how quickly we regenerate that super, and then above 100, it's going to increase our super damage. And then for the third and final focus, investing into melee is a pretty good idea, as we want quick regen for that too for neutral. But aside from armor stats, we also have armor mods. On the helmet, in this build, we run a Stasis Siphon, a Harmonic Siphon, and a Font of Super, so that we increase our super stat by 20 artificially whenever we have an orb of power. On the arms, we run 1 heavy-handed, so we spawn orbs on melee kills, and then 2 impact induction, so that we get a bit of our grenade on melee damage. And on the chest, we run 1 charged up for an extra armor charge slot. Then we run 2 resists for whatever activity you're doing, and then on the legs, we'll be running triple stasis surge, so that our SMG deals 22% more damage. Then on the class item, we have a time dilation, so our damage buffs last longer, a powerful attraction to suck up orbs whenever we thruster, and a special finisher to make ammo when necessary. Now, on from armor, we have this season's artifact. Within, we don't actually need anything, and I quite like that for my build. It says whenever you're seeing this, you can use it. The best for us is going to be pretty much just Armor Smith, which will give us damage resist whenever we break a shield, and that's actually it for the artifact. But now, to close out this build, we have the gameplay loop. Firstly, let's talk getting to boss phases. The best way to get there is to rely on consecration spam. If you see a group of enemies, use the ability. While this ability nukes adds, you're going to be filling up your light transcendence meter, and when you need dark, throw glacier grenades and use your buffed SMG. When you have transcendence, pop it. This allows you to pretty much infinitely spam melees, and this is what we're going to be focusing on leading up to bosses. As for what we do against bosses, it's a very simple order. You start by tractor cannoning the buff for the 30% debuff. Then you melee them with your Frenzied Blade to sever them, which counts for a dark debuff, and then you Thunder Crash. Once that little combo is done, lay into them with the Fast Talker, and when you hear a beep or you know you're getting to the end of your mag, swap to tractor, take a shot, and swap back. This will reload your SMG and allow you to continue to farm up your next super, which once you have that, redo the combo, and that's it. You'll just be repeating this over and over, and when boss damage ends, remember to rebuild Transcendence or use Transcendence to stay alive and clear ads. It is super simple and really, really strong. The only nuance here, as we end this build, is that you do have the ability to loadout swap before Thunder Crashing. You're seeing this in action now, and I don't want to recommend this for the average player, but if you really want to solo carry your fire team to success in whatever boss-focused activity you're doing, this is the best way to do it. Before every T-Crash, swap to Curse of the Falling Star, then swap back to Peacekeepers. You're still going to generate a ton of supers insanely fast, and those supers will now deal an absolute insane amount of damage. But like I said, this is not the average player stuff. You don't need to do this even in the most in-game stuff. This is just extra credit. But with that said, thank you for getting this far into the video. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Remember, there's a dim link down in the description. Also remember that my Discord and my Twitch and the subscribe button is down there. If you want to support me, again, a like, a comment, a subscription, joining the Discord, coming saying hi on Twitch, hyping the video if you're on mobile, all of that helps a ton. My goal is to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I cannot do that without your help. But if you want to support me, support the channel, and you can't think of a comment down below Pantheon. I think I might have done that for the Hunter video. I don't remember, but comment down below Pantheon. With that, as usual, I hope you are having a really great day.